Welcome to Miles of Books, a book-centric show to listen to on your run. From Another Mother Runner and Feisty Media, I'm host Sarah Bowen Shea, along with Ellison Weist. Hello, my dear Ellison.
Hey, Sarah. Fancy meeting you here.
Yes. So, before we jump into the new novels we're going to be talking about, let's talk about a brand new list. Love me some lists. It is the 50 best thrillers of the 21st century from our friends over at the New York Times. And the list was crowdsourced by talking to thriller authors, mystery bookstore owners, librarians, bookstagrammers, and more. And you and I both dove into the list. And I mean, what was your overall impression of the list?
I had some surprises. I had some pleasant surprises. I personally was stunned that Good Girl came in at number one.
Gone Girl.
Girl, sorry. Gone Girl. There's a brewery here called Good Girl. Can you tell it's Friday afternoon? And I was interested to hear on the podcast that actually some of the New York Times Book Review editors and writers were surprised to see it on almost every list. Mm-hmm. So I went back and I looked and I'd read 28.
Look at you, you actually counted.
Oh, yeah. Well, on the actual one on the website, you can do that. It'll keep track of it for you. And I have 2 that I'd like to read. And then I counted 5 that I started and.
Wow, I think that's 1/10. That's some easy math there. That's a pretty high percentage.
Yeah, and the problem is, you and I've talked about it. I have a ton of French. I need to meet her in person, and we need to wrestle this out or something, because I love her books in the beginning, and then about 100 pages in, I drop off. So somebody suggested listening.
Can I just say, I feel so validated, Ellison, because so many respected, beloved people that I know love ton of French novels, and I am still ticked about reading it was about the tree was in the title. Yeah, The Witch Elm. I am still mad. I want the time back that I got from reading that. And I just, oh my gosh, it just seemed like it went on forever. But my gosh, that, a number of her books made it, and I can't go there. So I didn't agree with that, but I was you alluded to the podcast. So that's the New York Times book review podcast, which I listened to on the road trip that I just did with John from Wichita to New Jersey. And gosh, when they mentioned that Case Histories by Kate Atkinson was on there, I literally fist pumped while I was driving.
Yeah. Yeah. And the one, Sarah Lyle, who's their main thriller writer, when they ask her at the end, which book on this list would you pretty much insist that everybody read? It was that one. And I was walking when I was listening to it, and I was, Yeah.
So, and our buddy Anthony Horowitz was there. He just squeaked in at number 49 with Magpie Murders. It counts. And then, because they also had a very broad description of what a thriller was.
They did.
So whether it was a crime procedural or, kind of psychological thriller or a murder mystery or, sci-fi. They even had a couple on there. So, and I was really pleased to see the plot by Jean Hanff Korelitz at number 29. That book just then, I had never read any of her books before, and so then that led me to read almost all of her novels. I really, really enjoyed that one. I was shocked that the Da Vinci Code is number 26.
I had to gag a little at that one. Yeah.
Precisely.
I read, I think that was one of the ones I did not finish. And I don't even think I made it 5 pages on that one.
Look at you. Wow. That is really, what a rebel you are.
Well, wow. I just think life's too short. There's so many good books out there. Why waste your time?
Yeah, it was, I mean, it was propulsive reading, but at the same time, I knew I was being so duped, and it's inane writing, and it's the most hyper unrealistic
Yeah.
timeline. I mean,
Yeah.
the main character like flies from Boston to Paris in, the amount of time it would take me to walk a block. I mean, it was just, he like at, I don't know, at like let's say 5 in the evening, he'd be like, "Oh, I should be in Paris," and by 6 a.m. the next morning Paris time, he'd already be there. I'm like, no, no,
Oh,
no.
no, no, no,
You know,
no.
I mean, I don't have it quite right, but it was pretty much that
Right.
height of unrealism. So, and then I was so excited to see a genius novel that we both revere, The Goldfinch by the Illuminati. Speaking of
Yes. Yes.
Donna Tartt, I mean, she's
Yeah.
just so immensely talented, and so that was only 3 ticks ahead of Da Vinci Code. I
Yeah.
mean, it was
And yeah, this is the thing. I mean, they have no control over this because, as you say, they crowdsource. They went to all
yeah.
these people. And if you go on the website, you can actually see how some of these people voted. But it's, every person is different. Every person's reading,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
what we love, we love. What we hate.
Yes, there is a Russian adage that I actually know how to say in Russian, but I won't do it because my accent's not so good. But it translates to, when it comes to taste and colors, there are no comrades.
I love that. I
Yeah, so we should
love
include,
that.
when it comes to taste, colors, and novels, there are no
Yeah,
comrades.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's a
Uh,
great list, and I really
uh-huh.
urge, especially if you're a thriller lover, this is catnip because there's got to be
Mhm.
something on there you haven't read yet.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I definitely added to my,
Yep,
to be read list from it. Yes. And I will hyperlink a gift link to the article in the show
great.
notes.
Oh,
Yes.
good.
Making a note to myself to do that. So then the first new novel that we're going to discuss today is by a fairly prolific and popular author who I was very surprised did not make that New York Times list. And that is Chris Bohjalian, and his new one is called The Amateur. I'm going to show the cover, and I found it an engaging read. So, tell us the plot on that one, Ellison.
It centers around the amateur, a young woman named Mira, who at the time of this takes place and starts in 1978, although she is looking back on this as an adult. And in
Mm-hmm.
1978, she's 18 years old, getting ready to go to college. It's summer. She is a golf prodigy and she's going on a scholarship, and she's at her sort of Westminster like country club outside of New York City, just hitting balls. And unfortunately, and this is happens early in the book, so I'm not giving anything away. One of her balls hits a young man who she actually goes to school with and kills him.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like a tragic accident, but there are repercussions as it goes through. I mean, obviously for the boy Kenny, his family, and for Mira. But as this book goes on, we learn that she is using various coping mechanisms, one of which is she's, unbeknownst to anybody, she's been sleeping with a man who's 30 years her senior.
Mm-hmm.
And this started when she was 15.
Mm-hmm.
And when this gets out, plus she has a history of what the police call reckless behavior, such as attacking a young man who tried to rape her, then all of a sudden people start questioning what did happen. And there's some
Mm-hmm.
anomalies around the you think it must be a clear cut case, but it's not. There's some
Mm-hmm.
anomalies around the incident. And suddenly the police and the legal system are involved.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I really like what I deem the clever conceit of the novel, that it's actually a memoir written by the protagonist Mira later in her life. So it's her looking back at the entire situation, offering some hindsight commentary on situations that occur. And it wasn't done with a heavy hand. You're only on occasion reminded when she would come in with, quote unquote, her own voice to talk about, to kind of chime in from current day to remind us that this is a reflection back
Yeah.
on her own life. So I thought that was very well done.
Yeah, I did. And I think both you and I were engaged, pretty much all the way through. He really makes some comments on the way women are treated and looked upon, particularly around this relationship that she has with this older man, and talk about being slut shamed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's way before Me Too. And so there's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff around that, particularly by the way she's perceived by other young women.
Yes. Yes. I thought the author did a good job of having his female protagonist examine the dynamics of a sexual relationship between, as you said, a significantly older man and a younger woman. But that said, I was aware the whole time that it was a man writing it. But, I kind of stepped back and I thought, oh, maybe that's my 2026 lens, my post Me Too lens,
Right.
looking back on it. But I don't know. It was an interesting storyline to include in it. I think he did a good job of it, but again, it was he doing it.
Right. But I'd have to give him snaps for doing a fairly good job with that.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think
yeah.
we both, like I say, I think we both were engaged, although we have issues with the ending.
Yeah, mixed feelings about the outcome is how
Right.
you very tidily summarized it in a text to me. I thought that was well done.
Yeah, so that would be interesting to hear from other readers. But it's definitely, it's going to be one of the books of the high summer, and with good reason.
So it's time to hear from the brands that support this show. We'll talk about 3 more new novels when we return. All right, next we have a debut novel, The Great Wherever by Shannan Sanders, a sweeping family portrait set in the South. So take it away.
Yeah. And this one sort of centers around a girl named Aubrey Lamb, who is an early 30-something who's sort of adrift in life. As the book opens, she's being dumped by her long-term boyfriend, and her father has died in the not so recent past, but close enough so that she really finds herself adrift. And it turns out that when her father died, she wondered why he left the family home to her older established sister. And by established, I mean her sister has a job, she's got a husband, a couple of kids. She's not really jealous about this, she just wonders about it until she finds out that her father has left her his percentage. It's essentially a kind of a quarter percentage in this family farm that's in Tennessee, in rural Tennessee. She vaguely has memories about it, doesn't really know what it's all about. She's at this point in her life where she wants a change. So she, at the invitation of the other 3 members who have holdings in this farm, she goes out to visit it. And in the meantime, she is being observed by a ghost. And this sounds, when I was reading about it, I'm sort of like, oh no, are we going, to the Casper deal? Please, let's not do this. But the way Sanders does it is really great, because she essentially says that there are several family members, dead family members, 4 altogether, who have remained around this family farm for various reasons. And the newest member, who's a young woman, is watching over Aubrey. Aubrey is sort of her person. And so through them and through one of Aubrey's today cousins, we get what happened, how this farm came into the family, the generations before it. And we get to see what happened along the way, what happened to each one of the 4 ghosts. And it's really well done. I was surprised at how well done it is. And also, I think the character of Aubrey is, the author does not sort of paint her either good or bad. She doesn't paint her as, okay, come on, girl, get your act together. At the same time, she doesn't make excuses for her and points out, ways that she's gotten in her own way. There's no real cut and dry ending. And by that, I mean, it's not tied up in a neat bow, but I really liked the story. I liked the way it was executed, and I would definitely recommend it. Yeah.
Oh, Fascinating.
Yeah.
So online, a lot of readers are describing this as a transfixing novel, and one reviewer went so far as to assert that it makes, quote, the world feel suspended in a liminal space and you can't quite tell time through the haze, which I love that's so evocative. Did this book do that for you?
Yes, I don't know if I would go that far. I agree that that's beautiful phrasing for
Mhm.
it. I think what it did for me was really brought home the links of with families, the way that those that have gone before us that we either never met
Mhm.
or had just very tangential interactions with, still have a way of, I don't want to say controlling our lives because that sounds metaphysical, having an imprint that maybe we are not aware of. To me, it's almost like, if you're in an older house that belonged in your family and suddenly you come across a treasure trove of letters or a
Mhm.
diary, that
Mhm.
I think this book evokes that sort of sense of history, familial
Mm.
history. Yeah.
This from a woman who ended up moving back into her childhood home.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
you.
Right, right, yeah, and then sold it.
Yes, you heartless
I know,
person.
I know, I know. Well, I will say that my family on my mother's side, we still have a house that came into the family in 1842, and that is the house that my brothers and I really see as our ancestral home.
I
That's
I would say so.
Yeah,
I think that qualifies.
yeah, yeah,
Well, coming
yeah.
up on 200 years of
Yeah.
ownership. That's
Yeah, yeah,
amazing.
and it's been in the same family ever since then. The house itself, they believe, was built around 1825, but yeah, yeah,
That's remarkable. You have
yeah.
never told me that.
You're
Yeah.
invited to Carlisle, Kentucky, anytime.
Wow. Wow. Um, okay, so Ellison, I would love if you would do your magic. If you like X author or Y novel, you'll enjoy this book for this Shannon Sanders book.
Yeah, the one that first comes to mind for me and probably will for everybody is Beloved by Toni Morrison.
Mm.
And there are many similarities there. I'd say more recently, and this one does not have what I would say out and out ghost per se, but it would be The Love Songs of W.E. Du Bois by
Mm.
Honore Jeffers. And that is one of my favorite more recent novels. It is luxurious, unsettling, beautifully written. And to me, there are some of the same family themes, trauma. And if you haven't read that one, I would highly recommend it.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Our next novel is The House of Boleyn by Tracy Borman. Ellison, this one shouted your name to me from the moment I held it because I know that you really dig novels that blend historical truths with dramatized details. So
Right.
tell us about it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. This one, it's about the Anne Boleyn's family. So it mainly focuses on her family, but it revolves around the family ancestral home, which is known as Hever Castle. And, what I really liked about this was I went into it a little nervous because I thought, okay, here we go again. How many of us have read countless novels about Anne Boleyn, her
Yes.
relationship with, so here about really focusing on Anne Boleyn's father, Thomas, and her childhood, but it's really centers a lot, and not just on the castle, but on the people that populated it. We meet Anne's grandmother, we meet her mother, we meet some of the servants, her brother George and her sister Mary, the relationships between the three of those, and it takes you, it almost has Henry VIII is almost off stage. You hear about what's going on in London, what's happening with him. You get the whole Catherine of Aragon saga, but it literally is off stage. And so I thought the first two-thirds of this novel were fantastic in that they looked at the story from other viewpoints, but always came back and centered on the family home. Really, I thought Borman did a really good job of fleshing out some of the family members and giving us little nuggets of information that maybe we didn't know. Yet at the same time, Anne is not completely gone, but we see her from their outlooks, some loving, some unloving. And I don't know. I really enjoyed in fact, I'll tell you where I could tell that I was losing a little bit of interest, and that's essentially when Anne and Henry get married. And then suddenly, and I don't know whether that's because I know exactly what's going to happen from here on out. That may have been part of it. It's not like I thought, oh, shoot, chuck the book or anything, but I was interested in the fact that that's where I could see my interest waning just a bit.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So I understand this book has changing points of view from chapter to chapter with all these different characters that you mentioned. And you and I have often discussed how that works with changing either character or timelines. So how did that literary technique work for you in this novel?
In this novel, very well. Very well. It was, I thought, seamless. I didn't feel like I was being jerked from one point of view to the other. I thought there was enough, melding and sort of meshing of viewpoints and overlap that I thought it worked extremely well.
Good. Good. All right, let's pause for another brief break. Okay, the next novel is one that you, Ellison, just finished last evening, I know. It's another debut novel, and it's called The Hill in the Dark Grove, and it's written by Liam Higginson. And even just holding a copy in my hands told me that it's atmospheric and enthralling. This book, to me, from its cover, this sheep, this lone sheep, exhaling, it just radiates a vibe,
Yeah. This is what I would call literary horror. And if you came up to me and said, I want you to read a book, literary horror, I would go, yeah, come on. Quit pulling my leg. But this is, first off, fantastic debut. Talk about atmospheric and lyrical language. It takes place in Wales, and it's essentially on a Welsh sheep farm. Very, very out of touch with even the closest town, which is about 5 to 10 miles away. And there's an older couple who you meet who have this sheep farm, it's been in the husband's family for generations. And when we meet them, you feel like you're getting lulled into this sense of the life, which is not an easy life, but, you're going through the things, the daily things that have to be done with the sheep versus the, seasonal things. And yet, as a boy, the husband has been told and warned never to go down into this one pasture. But his dog, his very beloved dog, gets away one day and gets in there. And the husband, notices this. He sees this head, and it's a stone head that appears to be just looking at him. And he becomes obsessed with it. And what he begins doing is digging to get to this head. It's a lot more intricate than it sounds. He has to really do a lot. And as the book goes on, you have this sense, mainly propelled by the wife, that something is not right. This is not a jump out and gotcha book. This is slow dripping dread. And you, the reader, do not know what's going on, but suddenly the farm animals are not doing well. There are mysterious things going on around this couple, and the wife begins to realize that something is not right. And like you said, I finished it last night. I was sitting on the couch and I finished it, and I looked over at Carl and I went, okay. And said, I think I'll be able to sleep tonight, but this is just a warning, that if you have to shake me awake, because man, this young author, and he looks about, 22 in his author photo, does a beautiful sense of leading you first from the husband's viewpoint and then to the wife's viewpoint as things slowly begin to get more tense and scary.
Wow. So, and the author himself is from rural Wales.
Yes.
So he is writing of a place that he knows intimately.
Very much so.
Yeah. And so I already mentioned the cover, which has that in the, I guess it's crows in the background, and then it's that one sheep exhaling. It's very gothic-y, very folk arty looking sheep's head. And it reminded me of a book we discussed last year, which was The Hounding by Zenobie Purvis.
That is so, because that's what I was reminded of as well. That is so key. Yeah. Yeah.
And so are there other books that The Hill in the Dark Grove remind you of?
Gosh, I think if Shirley Jackson was here, there's that same, how she could really take you, and before you know it, you're like, what the hell is going on here?
Right. There's this foreboding that you can almost hear like music in your head.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. This young author, he's not as obvious as Stephen King, and I know both of us have enjoyed Stephen King novels, but this is... It's almost like you feel like, where did this come from, and how did I not notice this, and how have we gotten to this point? So, yeah.
You are selling me on this. It just immediately spoke to me. There is something very disquieting about the cover, yet also something very, and it just draws you in almost a mystical way.
And that's exactly the feeling that the husband has. That's exactly that you've just described what he has as he gazes upon this head, this stone head that speaks to him for some reason. Yeah.
Wow. Well, kudos to whoever, the art department.
Yeah.
As well as the author.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So lastly, I'd like us to do something that we really haven't done, which is I'd like us to spend a minute on two books that we bailed on. And for you, it was Famous Men by Julie Buntin. And for me, it was the audiobook of Lifeguard, A Love Story by Janet Fash. And so that Lifeguard, I'll go first. Lifeguard, A Love Story, it's a memoir, so not fiction. So we're going a little off stream here, but the author reads the audiobook, which is always fun. I always enjoy it when an author reads their own work. And I love her New York City accent. But given the subtitle of A Love Story, this is about her years as longtime lifeguard at Jones Beach. No, I'm not remembering. It's the one ocean beach in New York City, Rockaway.
Right.
And so given that subtitle, A Love Story, I really wanted more emphasis on the author's devotion to swimming and love of the ocean and what it was like to be there. For me, there was just too much about local politics and backstabbing. And again, I know several other sporty women who have thoroughly enjoyed this memoir. It was a DNF for me.
Yeah. I hate that. I hate that, especially when you go in really hopeful for a book. And mine, as you mentioned, was Famous Men by Julie Buntin, which has gotten a lot of attention. And I will say that in my advanced review copy, the author has written a letter, just sort of a, one-page letter to her readers, which I found just wonderful. I loved how she spoke about the book and how she sort of framed it. And then I was like, oh shoot, because it's another love story between a young woman and an older man. And in this case, we have a young woman who comes from a very dysfunctional home. And she leaves her mother and her mother's erstwhile boyfriend to go out on her own, and she decides that she wants to seek this author. She wants to find this author who is from the same hometown, who has gone on to do extremely well, with sort of the idea of maybe this guy was her father, but the voice, couldn't get into the voice.
Hmm.
And as you and I have talked about, I sometimes have a problem with what I call coming of age, striking out. There are certain authors that can nail it. And unfortunately for me, Bunton was not one of them.
Okay. All right. I just figured by saying a couple DNFs that, then the fact that we recommended those other 4 books fairly strongly, then people can trust our word on things.
Gives us cred.
Yes, there you go. Thanks for listening. Miles of Books is a production of Another Mother Runner and Feisty Media. I hope you are planning to join me at Feisty Fest, our 3-day multi-sport and health festival this September. The lineup of experts leading learning sessions and panels is incredible, in addition to the array of sporty activities happening. I am really excited for a swim clinic led by my other Miles of Books co-host, Coach Liz Waterstraat, as well as a pickleball lessons from a pro that our friends at Empower Pickleball are bringing. For all the details, go to livefeisty.com. That's livefeisty.com. livefeisty.com.
Stay feisty, folks.